Thank you for joining us this morning for our webinar on using video with the Horner controllers. The presentation is roughly 17 minutes, and as usual, if you've any questions at any point, just put them into the questions panel of your screen and we'll get to them at the end. Okay.
Welcome to today's tutorial. Let's get started. Let's take a look at our agenda. We'll discuss which OCS models support video. We'll discuss the various video features, and we'll discuss the Seascape video object. We'll talk about various video applications. We'll have video demonstrations throughout, and as always, we'll finish with a live Q&A session. Let's get started. So which OCS models support video? In the XL series, the XL4, the EXLW, the EXL6, the XL7, and the EXL10 all support video playback in 320 by 240 resolution without sound. The XL15 Plus is our most capable audio and video product. It features full screen resolution of 1024 by 768 pixels, and it can have video with sound. The X5 has the same specs as the XL series, and is also available with a special video optimized firmware version that optimizes video playback. To set up video in Seascape, we use the Seascape video object. This provides a mechanism for a system designer to configure the OCS to display either live video from a USB camera or video playback of pre-recorded MP4 files. You start by assigning a control register which has 3 bits. There is a start-stop bit, which is the least significant bit. The next significant bit is pause and resume. And then, with the XL15 Plus, you've also got a mute and an unmute button. Now, in addition to the control register, you've also got status available. For the XL series and the X5, the status is one word worth of information that tells us that the video is playing, the video is paused, the incorrect video channel was specified, the file is not present or is corrupted, or that the frame rate is not supported. For the XL15 Plus, you've got 2 additional status words. You've got volume control, which allows you to adjust the volume for the audio, and you've also got seek control, which allows you to start video playback at any point of the video. For example, seek control at 50% is halfway through the video. You can also specify video resolution. For the XL series, you're limited to 320 by 240, which is quarter VGA. The X5 offers that resolution, plus full screen, which is 480 by 272. The XL15 Plus has a lot more options. They range from 320 by 240 all the way up to full screen. We recommend using 24 frames per second or slower, as it will have less impact on the OCS resources. There are many free and paid tools for converting video files to the correct resolution and frame rate in case a video you want to play on the OCS doesn't have the correct resolution. Handbrake is a free software that we use. It's popular for Windows, Mac, and Linux. The recommended settings for the XL series and the X5 are 320 by 240 resolution at 24 FPS. Our products can display live video to provide your operator with a unique view of the machine. The OCS supports the USB video standard. Up to 4 video cameras can be connected through a USB hub. The XL15 Plus features a digital video output connector called a mini DisplayPort for screen mirroring. It's compatible with HDMI, DVI, and full-size DisplayPort. An active converter is required to convert to HDMI, but these are inexpensive and readily available. Now we'll demonstrate video playback on an X5 with version 15.32 firmware, which has been optimized for video. So we're in Seascape. I'm going to go to the screen editor. Okay, so here's screen number 1 as I've designed it. You can see this video object is already configured. Now, when you're adding the video object to the screen, you select this icon with the video camera. And then, once you click it, you can drag it onto the screen, and then you can double click on it to configure it. So let's take a look at how it's configured here. So the first thing you need to configure is whether you're showing live video or a live stream. We're going to be playing back a file, so we'll select the playback option. The path is basically the file name, including the path, and you need to specify a variable here. You can't just type in the name of the video file that you want to play back through this video object. You also need to specify an integer type variable. You'll need a series of them because it's interpreted as ASCII data with 2 characters per 16 bits of data. So I've allocated an array. I've got an integer type variable that is an array of 10 consecutive words, which allows me to specify a path file name of up to 20 characters. If you're using register-based variables, then you would specify a register number. Okay, so now we have to configure our trigger control, which are those 8 bits that we would use to start and stop the video, pause the video, and in the case of the XL15 Plus, to control muting of the audio, etc. Next, you have to assign a status register. For the XL series and the X5, that's just a single word. For the XL15 Plus, that's an array of 3 words. Then, you configure your resolution and your frame rate. I've set the frame rate to maximum, which will attempt to use the native frame rate of the video. Okay, so that's the setup for this particular video object. Now, I've actually created my own play and stop button using a toggle switch, so I'll double click that here. And you can see that I'm effectively referencing the first bit in the trigger variable that I assigned. If that is a 1, I'm going to play the video, and if that is a 0, it's going to be stopped. Okay, so under indicator properties, I've made it so that when you are not playing the video, you'll see play on the button. While the video is playing, you will see stop on the button. Similarly, with the second bit, I've created a pause and resume button. So there's the second bit in the trigger variable, and I've assigned that one as pause and resume. That's pretty much the only control that you have with the XL series and the X5. So let's take a look at this at runtime. I'll switch over to my X5. We have the back of an X5 here with the cover removed. The video object is black because it's currently not playing. So if I press the play button, I've got a video here which is an excerpt from one of Horner America's videos. This will illustrate how you can take standard high-resolution video, which is in 1920 by 1080 with sound, and then you can convert that through video conversion using Handbrake to whatever resolution that you need. You can use embedded instructions, whether those are subtitles or graphics that are embedded on the screen, as there is no sound. Okay, so that's watching video in a window at 320 by 240 resolution on an X5. Now let's go back to Seascape. Let's look at how we can set up full screen video. Alright, so I have screen number 3. I'll go ahead and maximize it here. I've got another video object, but it's the only thing on the screen. And if you double click here, you'll see that I've got a separate video which isn't playing the same file. Separately assigned trigger and status registers are variables, and I've set my resolution to be full screen and my frames per second at max frames per second. This particular video was converted using Handbrake to 480 by 272 resolution and converted to 24 frames per second. It's been loaded on the micro SD card where all the videos are located. So it has very similar configuration, but you select full screen in this particular case. Before we look at the X5, there's a bit of ladder logic involved here I want to show you. Okay, So first of all, this is logic that was involved in both video objects, both the video window as well as the full screen window. We are using a string move over the ASCII string of the path that includes the file name. So x5_101.mp4 is the name of the file that I am playing for one of the videos. And then similarly, for the full screen video, I've got a different file name because I've got a different video displayed. Okay, so you need to use variables when you're specifying the video file name, and using something like a string move function allows you to simply assign the path and the file name. Alright, now here's how I've got my demonstration set up for full screen. You might have a machine condition that occurs, or a button is pressed to play this video. In that scenario, you're going to be switching to the screen that contains the video full screen. In my case, this happens to be screen number 3. So I've just written some simple logic that says, if the user screen is equal to screen number 3, then we'll wait a second, and then trigger a bit that will cause our least significant bit of our playback register to turn on. The trigger bit is a one-shot, and I did that in this case so that we would only automatically play the video when we first arrived on the screen, and not repeatedly play the video continuously on a loop. However, for the play stop bit, I've used a set coil, as that bit needs to stay on for as long as the video plays. Otherwise, if it turns off again, it's just going to stop the video playback like you'd expect. Once the video stops playing, then the OCS firmware will turn off that trigger bit and automatically put it back into stop mode. I want to automatically return to the previous screen after the video is complete, so I'm on screen number 3 when I'm playing a video, and if the status bit tells me a video is playing is off for 2 seconds, it's going to bring me back to screen 1. So that's how I've configured this particular logic. Let's go back to the X5, but this time I'm going to switch over to screen number 3. And shortly after I arrive there, you'll see a video playing, but this time it's in full screen. So this is not just a smaller screen stretched, I've converted this particular file to take advantage of the full screen resolution of the X5. And a couple of seconds after the video is finished, it'll go back to the first screen. So that was a quick demonstration of using video with the X5. Now we'll demonstrate using video playback with the XL15 Plus, so we'll go back to Seascape. So let me pull up my XL15 Plus demo. It's similar to what I did with the X5, but there are some slight differences. Let's head to the graphics section here, and the main difference here is there are additional options available that you don't find in the XL series or the X5. So if we double click here, we can see our additional resolution choices, anywhere from 320 by 240 all the way up to full screen. You can specify a variable screen size and you can specify the aspect ratio, so it's pretty flexible. From a configuration standpoint, in the case of the XL Plus, the other big difference is that the status register is no longer a single 16-bit value. It's actually 3 consecutive 16-bit values. So that's why I've assigned a word array with a dimension of 3 for status. Another thing to see is that the trigger register is no longer an integer value. It is now a double integer value. So those are the main differences in the configuration of the XL Plus versus the configuration that we just reviewed in the X5. Everything else is similar. Now, just like I built play stop and pause resume buttons for the X5, I can build additional options for the XL15 Plus. I've got a mute and unmute button, I've got a volume control from 0 to 100, and I've got a playback point called seek control, which you can specify from 0 to 100. And that's at the point at which playback will start in the video. The logic that I wrote to show the video on the XL15 Plus is pretty much the same as the X5, except this time it's with a different file name. Now that we've taken a look at the main differences with the XL15 Plus, let's take a look at our controller. So what we've got here is the mini DisplayPort connection from the XL15 Plus connected to an active converting cable, and the other end is HDMI, which is plugged into our video setup. Now, in our video setup, the equipment is receiving the video signal. It does not have the option of showing the original aspect ratio, so it automatically is stretched to fill the available space. So the 1024 by 768 output from the XL Plus in this case is being stretched horizontally to 1920 by 1080 type resolution, and there's nothing in the XL Plus that I can do to affect that. Most devices that you're connecting to an XL Plus through the mini DisplayPort are going to have a configurable option for stretch or original aspect ratio, but our setup has no selection. Anyway, let's go ahead and start this video. I'll turn the audio down to a fairly low level. I'm going to go ahead and select a playback point at the very beginning, which is 0%. And now we'll hit play. Alright, and then within a couple of seconds, the same basic video plays, but this time
that's really
with
involved
sound
with just
and
about
more
every
resolution.
application. Certainly all
We can pause the
applications
video,
that
and if we
utilize
want, we
analog.
can set the playback point to 50%. So hopefully that's a good demonstration of all the video capabilities. Thank you for attending today's tutorial. The Q&A session will begin shortly.
Okay, we'll run through a few questions that have come in. For the streaming ability, what is the restrictions on that? So we have 4 channels is what is allowed to be configured, but only one at a time. So they can be set to registers, but again, you can only use one at a time. What formats are supported? So MP4. Okay. Just a quick check there. Can everybody hear me? Can someone just enter something in the
Yeah.
questions panel? I've
Absolutely.
had some issues with audio.
Hearing you fine.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I shall carry on with the questions. Okay, so the formats, you've got MP4, you've got .mov, .mpg, and .wmv. So you can refer back to this video when it's uploaded for these, or alternatively, you can be finding these on the user manual of the unit. It'll be shown in the video object section there. Micro series support, currently only the X5. I'm not sure if we're implementing it on the others. I do not believe so at this time, but currently X5 on the micro series. I'm not seeing any other questions at the moment outside of that, so I shall take you back to my screen. Okay, so we have IEC video part 2 now next week, followed by using shift register functions and analog I/O scaling in the coming weeks. The registration links are there as always, so feel free to register for those now. And all past webinars are down below here as always. You can go back at any point, they'll always be there. I believe that is it for today. I'm not seeing any other questions. Yeah, thank you for joining us this morning, and we hope to see you again next week. Goodbye.